3 months ago, I, Kristen Quinn, 24, poured every spare second into planning my sister's Sweet 16. I booked a restaurant in Columbia, Missouri, crafted an album of our childhood photos, and spent hundreds of dollars my own savings to make it perfect. I pictured her face lighting up grateful for once. But when the night came, the table sat empty. No sister, no parents, no explanation. My phone buzzed with a single voicemail from Dad. "We're in Paris. We just wanted to keep you busy." His laugh sliced through me, sharp and cold. They'd planned this, left me to set up a party no one would attend. My chest tightened, not with tears, but with something heavier. Betrayal. I stood there alone, the weight of 3 months' work crashing down. They thought I'd just take it like always. I didn't argue, didn't scream. I waited. A week later, my phone lit up, 36 missed calls in 1 hour from them. Panic in their voices, begging me to pick up. I sent one text back. "I'm very busy." They had no idea what I'd done. If you've ever been taken for granted by the people you love most, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment. Would you have answered those calls or walked away like I did? It all started in a cramped cubicle where I juggled spreadsheets and party plans. Every day I buried myself in numbers at a local firm. My days were long, 8 hours at the desk, then nights poring over invoices to keep the family afloat. I'd been sending money for my sister's school fees and our household bills, scraping by on what was left. My dream of becoming a photographer capturing city lights or quiet fields sat buried under stacks of tax forms. I told myself it was temporary, that family came first. 3 months ago, I took on planning my sister's Sweet 16. Addison had been dropping hints about wanting something big, something memorable. I wanted her to feel special, to see me as the sister who made it happen. I booked a private room at a cozy restaurant downtown, one with string lights and a view of the river. I spent hours designing invitations, picking a menu with her favorite sliders and cupcakes, and even tracking down a local band for live music. Every detail mattered, down to the napkins folded into little stars. The real effort was the gift. I stayed up late gluing photos into an album, snapshots of us as kids, laughing in the backyard, building snowmen, fighting over the last cookie. I wanted her to remember those moments, to feel how much I cared. It cost me $500 from my savings, plus countless nights I could have spent on my own work. Mom and Dad kept pushing me to make it perfect. "You're so good at this," Mom would say, her voice sharp when I hesitated. Dad texted daily, asking for updates, reminding me how much Addison deserved it. Their expectations piled on, heavy and unspoken, like I owed them my time, my money, my everything. I didn't question it. I was the older sister, the one who held things together. I'd call the restaurant manager between meetings, sneaking in quick chats about table settings. Make it quick, my boss would snap, so I'd rush, balancing my job and their demands. I thought about my old camera tucked away in a drawer, untouched for years. Photography classes, portfolio reviews, a chance to move to a city like Portland. They felt like someone else's life. I pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on Addison's big day. At home, Mom would hover, suggesting changes. "Addison loves pink, not purple," she'd say, flipping through my plans. Dad chimed in. "Don't skimp on the food, she's counting on you." I nodded, adding their notes, stretching my budget thinner. I spent $200 on custom decorations, another $100 on the band's deposit. My savings dwindled, but I told myself it was worth it. Addison would walk into that restaurant, see the effort, and maybe say thank you. I texted her about the party, asking for input. Her replies were short. "Cool," or "whatever you think." I figured she was just busy with school friends, her own world. I kept going, gluing another photo, checking another vendor. I imagined her smile, the way she'd hug me when it was over. That's what sisters do, right? You show up, you sacrifice, you make it happen. By the end, I was exhausted but hopeful. The restaurant was booked, the album was done, the band was ready. I sent Mom and Dad the final plan, expecting a nod of approval. "Looks fine," Dad texted back. Mom didn't reply. I brushed it off, thinking they were just distracted. I had no idea what they were planning behind my back, how they'd turn my effort into nothing. All I could think about was Addison's face when she saw that party, the one I'd poured my heart into. By 6 p.m., the restaurant was perfect, but the chairs stayed empty. I stood in the private room, my phone clutched tight, waiting for a text, a call, anything. The band I'd hired was setting up their guitars, humming softly, ready for a crowd that hadn't shown. I checked my messages again. Nothing from Addison, Mom, or Dad. My stomach twisted, but I brushed it off. Maybe they were running late, stuck in traffic, or picking up last-minute guests. I paced the room, glancing at the door, willing it to open. At 6:15, I sent Addison a text. "Where are you? Party's starting." No reply. I tried Mom next, then Dad. Silence. The server, a young guy with a polite smile, approached me. "Everything okay? Need more time?" I nodded, forcing a grin, and said I'd check in with the family. My fingers shook as I dialed Addison's number. Straight to voicemail. I tried Mom, same thing. Finally, I called Dad. After 3 rings, he picked up, his voice distant, almost amused. "Hey, Kristen," he said, like he was answering a casual check-in. I heard chatter in the background, a faint announcement in French. "Where are you guys?" I asked, my voice tight. A pause, then a chuckle. "Oh, we're in Paris. Didn't we mention? We just wanted to keep you busy." His laugh hit me like a slap, sharp and careless. I froze, the phone pressed to my ear as he went on about their trip, how Addison needed a real celebration. Mom's voice chimed in, giggling about some cafe they'd found. I couldn't speak. The line went dead. I stood there alone, the band now packing up, the server avoiding my eyes. My chest felt hollow, like someone had carved out everything I'd trusted. They hadn't just forgotten they'd planned this, left me to pour my heart into a party no one would attend. For 3 months I'd worked, spent my savings, stayed up late, all for nothing. The betrayal wasn't just their absence, it was the lie, the way they'd strung me along, knowing I'd do it all without question. I sank into a chair, staring at my phone, the screen still blank. No apologies, no explanations, just that laugh echoing in my head. I thought about the years I'd spent putting them first, always the reliable one, the one who fixed things. But now, for the first time, I wondered what my role really was. Was I just the sister who made things happen, the daughter who paid the bills, the one they could count on to stay busy while they lived their lives? The server came back, offering to pack up the food. I shook my head, told him to donate it. I didn't want leftovers of a night that never happened. I walked to the album I'd made for Addison, still wrapped in tissue paper, untouched. I'd pictured her opening it, smiling at our childhood memories. Now it felt like a relic of someone I thought I knew. I left it on the table, not sure if I'd ever give it to her. As I stepped outside, the evening air hit me sharp and cold. I wasn't angry, not yet. The hurt was too deep for that. But something else stirred, a quiet question I'd never dared ask. Why was I always the one left behind? I didn't have an answer. But standing there, I knew I couldn't keep playing their game. For once, I needed to figure out what I was worth, not to them, but to myself. That night, a text from Tara lit up my phone. I was back in my apartment, the silence heavy after leaving the empty restaurant. Her message was short but sharp. "Kristen, you deserve more than this. There's a photography course in Portland, Oregon, starts next month. Go for it." I stared at the screen, her words cutting through the fog in my head. Tara, my best friend from high school, had always seen what I couldn't. She'd moved to St. Louis years ago, chasing her own dreams, but we still texted now and then. This wasn't just a suggestion, it was a lifeline. I opened my laptop, still in my coat, and searched for the course she mentioned. The website loaded, showing a program at a Portland art school focused on street photography and portfolios. The images were stunning, moody cityscapes, vibrant markets, misty bridges over the Willamette River. Each photo felt like a promise, A world where I could hold a camera again, not a spreadsheet. The course cost $1,500, but it offered workshops, mentorship, even a small gallery showcase. I scrolled through the faculty bios, picturing myself in their classes, learning to frame a shot to tell a story with light. Portland wasn't just a city, it was a chance to start over. I pulled up photos online, coffee shops tucked under evergreens, galleries buzzing with artists, streets alive with murals. My heart raced, a feeling I hadn't had in years. This wasn't about running away, it was about running toward something. I'd spent too long putting everyone else first, letting my own plans gather dust. Tara's text was a spark, and I could feel it catching fire. I opened a new tab, checking flights from Columbia to Portland. A one-way ticket was $300, manageable if I dipped into what was left of my savings. I searched for apartments, finding a studio near the art school for $800 a month. It was small, but I didn't need much, just a place to sleep and a desk for my camera. I bookmarked the listing, my fingers moving faster now, like they'd been waiting for this. Next, I checked my lease. I'd signed a year-long agreement, but there was a clause for early termination with a 1-month notice. I drafted an email to my landlord, keeping it simple. I'd be moving out by the end of the month. My job was trickier. I'd been at the accounting firm for 3 years, steady but suffocating. I opened another email addressing my boss, stating I'd resign in 2 weeks. I didn't explain why, didn't feel I owed anyone that. I pulled out my old camera, a Canon I'd bought in college, still in its case. I hadn't touched it in years, but holding it felt like meeting an old friend. I imagined carrying it through Portland's streets, capturing the way light hit a storefront or a stranger's smile. The thought made my chest ache, not with pain, but with possibility. I wasn't the same person who'd planned that party, who'd trusted blindly. I was done being the one who stayed behind. Tara texted again. "You got this. Don't let them hold you back." I smiled, typing a quick reply. "Thanks for the push." Her words were the only encouragement I needed, the only voice that mattered right then. I didn't tell her everything, not yet, but her belief in me was enough to keep going. I closed my phone, focusing on the screen in front of me. I registered for the course online, filling out forms, uploading a brief bio. I wrote about wanting to rediscover my passion, to build a portfolio that meant something. It felt honest, raw, like I was finally speaking for myself. The confirmation email arrived minutes later, locking in my spot. I stared at it, letting the reality sink in. I was going to Portland. I was choosing me. I thought about Mom and Dad, about Addison, about their trip to Paris. I didn't let myself dwell on their laugh, their betrayal. That was their story, not mine anymore. I opened a notebook, jotting down a list: cancel utilities, pack essentials, sell furniture. My life in Columbia could fit into a suitcase, I realized. I'd been living so small, tethered to their needs. No more. I checked my savings, $2,000 left after the party and the ticket. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I'd need to find a part-time job in Portland, maybe at a coffee shop or a bookstore, to cover rent while I studied. I searched online, finding a few openings near the art school. I bookmarked them already, imagining a new routine, one where I wasn't just surviving. By midnight, my plan was taking shape. I'd leave in 3 weeks, enough time to wrap things up. I thought about telling Mom and Dad, but decided against it. They didn't deserve to know, not yet. I'd leave a note for Addison, maybe, with the album I'd made, but nothing more. They'd find out when I was gone, when it was too late to pull me back. I looked at my camera again, running my fingers over its lens. It felt heavier now, not with weight, but with purpose. Portland was waiting, and so was I. For the first time, I saw a future that wasn't defined by their expectations, their lies. I wasn't running from them. I was building something new, something that was mine alone. The next morning, I sat down with a coffee and a decision. My laptop glowed in the dim light of my apartment, the plan from last night now, a checklist I was ready to tackle. I opened my email and drafted a message to my landlord stating I'd terminate my lease by the end of the month. The words came easily, no hesitation, no second thoughts. I hit send, feeling a knot in my chest loosen. Next, I wrote to my boss at the accounting firm, keeping it professional, 2 weeks' notice effective immediately. I didn't mention Portland or my reasons. That was for me, not them. The email whooshed away and I exhaled lighter already. I pulled up a travel site searching for flights to Portland, Oregon. A one-way ticket for 3 weeks from now cost $300, a small dent in my savings. I booked it, the confirmation popping up with a date and time that felt like a promise. My fingers lingered on the keyboard, a quiet thrill running through me. I was doing this, really doing it. Then I turned to the album. I'd started it for Addison's Sweet 16, but it was different now. I opened a box of old photos, pulling out shots I'd taken over the years, some of me and Addison as kids, others of me alone experimenting with my camera. There was one of us at a county fair, her face sticky with cotton candy, my grin wide behind the lens. I arranged them carefully, gluing each one into the album, adding captions in neat handwriting. Summer 2015, we fought over the last ride. It wasn't just a gift anymore. It was a goodbye, a way to close that chapter. I grabbed a sheet of paper for the letter. My pen hovered, then moved. Addison, I wrote this album is for you. It's the last thing I'll do for you. I've paid for your school, your clothes, our family's bills, but that ends now. I'm leaving for Portland to live my own life. I hope you find yours. I didn't mention Mom or Dad, didn't accuse or explain. The words were calm, final. I folded the letter, tucked it into the album, and set it on my kitchen counter. It felt right, like shedding a weight I'd carried too long. My phone buzzed, a reminder to call Aunt Ellen. I hadn't spoken to her in months, but she'd always been the one family member who listened. I dialed her number and she picked up on the second ring. Kristen, good to hear from you, she said, her voice warm. I told her about the photography course, my plan to move to Portland, and asked if I could stay with her for a few weeks while I settled in. Of course, she said without pause. I've got a spare room and I can't wait to see your photos. Her support was a lifeline, steady and real. We talked logistics, her address, the best coffee shops near her place, before I hung up, my resolve stronger. I looked around my apartment, mentally sorting what to keep. My camera, clothes, a few books, that was enough. I listed my furniture online, a couch for $100, a table for $50. The rest I'd donate. My life here had been small, defined by routine and obligation. Now every step felt like reclaiming something. I checked my savings, $1,700 after the ticket and course fees. I'd need a job in Portland, but the thought didn't scare me. A barista gig or bookstore shift would do while I studied. I packed a suitcase, folding shirts and jeans with care. My camera went into its case, ready for a new city. I imagined walking Portland's streets, snapping photos of bridges and murals, building a portfolio that was mine. The lightness in my chest grew, not from anger or hurt, but from knowing I was choosing myself. I didn't think about their trip to Paris, their lies. That was behind me. I was moving forward, step by deliberate step. By noon, I'd finished the big tasks. The lease was ending, the job was done, the ticket was booked, the album was ready. I sat back, sipping my coffee, now cold. For the first time in years, I felt unburdened, like I could breathe without someone else's expectations pressing down. I wasn't running away. I was walking toward a life that felt true. Aunt Ellen's voice echoed in my mind, her excitement matching mine. Portland wasn't just a place, it was a beginning. I was ready. By noon, my phone was buzzing like it was possessed. I glanced at the screen, 36 missed calls, all from Mom, Dad, and Addison. Their names flashed relentlessly, each one a demand I wasn't ready to answer. I'd left the album and letter on the kitchen counter before heading out to run errands, figuring they'd find it when they got back from Paris. Clearly they had. I ignored the calls, letting them pile up, and focused on picking up packing tape from the store. My life was moving forward, and their urgency wasn't my problem anymore. 2 days later, I heard banging on the door. "Kristen, open up." Mom's voice was sharp, laced with panic. I took a breath, steadied myself, and opened the door. Mom, Dad, and Addison stood there, faces red, the album clutched in Addison's hands. "How could you do this?" Mom snapped, stepping inside without invitation. "You're abandoning us." Dad's eyes narrowed, his voice low. "This is selfish, Kristen. After everything we've done for you." Addison crossed her arms, glaring. "You're just jealous I got to go to Paris." I stayed calm, leaning against the counter. "I'm not abandoning anyone," I said evenly. "I'm done paying for your lives while mine waits." Mom's jaw dropped, but before she could speak, Dad cut in. "You think you can just walk away? We know you took money from our savings." My stomach flipped, not from fear but from disbelief at their audacity. They'd spun a story to keep me in line, and now they were doubling down. "You stole from us?" Mom added, her voice shaking with accusation. "We called the police. They're on their way." Addison smirked like she'd won something. I didn't flinch. I'd been ready for this, even if I hadn't expected it so soon. "I didn't take anything," I said, my tone steady. "Let's wait for the police then." An hour later, 2 officers knocked on my door. Mom and Dad stood behind them, arms crossed, confident they'd caught me. Addison hovered near the couch, flipping through the album like it was evidence. The lead officer, a woman with a notepad, asked for my side. I walked to my desk, pulled out a folder, and handed it over. "These are my bank statements," I said. "Every cent I spent on the party, on Addison's school, on our bills, it came from my account, not yours." I pointed to the highlighted transactions: $500 for the restaurant, $200 for decorations, countless smaller withdrawals for family expenses. The officer scanned the papers, then looked at Mom and Dad. "This matches her account," she said. "No evidence of theft here." Dad's face fell, his bluster gone. Mom stammered, "But we thought—" The officer cut her off. "You made a serious claim without proof. I suggest you sort this out privately." She nodded to me, almost apologetic, and left with her partner. The accusation was dead, just like their hold over me. Mom tried again, softer now. "Kristen, we didn't mean to upset you. Let's talk." I shook my head. "There's nothing to talk about. I'm leaving for Portland in 3 weeks. I'm done being your bank, your planner, your backup." Addison scoffed, tossing the album onto the table. "You're so dramatic," she said. "You'll come crawling back when you fail." I met her eyes, unflinching. "I won't. This is my life now." Dad stepped forward, his voice hard. "You owe us, Kristen. We raised you." I didn't raise. My voice didn't let their words pull me in. "I paid that debt," I said. "Years of it. Now I'm free." The room went quiet, their argument spent. I could see it in their faces, anger, yes, but also a flicker of realization. They'd underestimated me, assumed I'd always bend. Not anymore. I opened the door, gesturing for them to leave. "You've got the album," I said to Addison. "Keep it. It's the last thing you'll get from me." Mom hesitated, reaching out, but I stepped back. "Go," I said, my voice firm but calm. They walked out, Mom muttering about family loyalty, Dad silent, Addison clutching the album like it burned her hands. I closed the door, the lock clicking with finality. I sat down, my heart steady. Their accusations, their anger, it didn't touch me. I'd built something stronger, a resolve they couldn't shake. Portland was waiting, and I was ready to meet it on my own terms. They'd tried to chain me with guilt, but I'd cut the links. I wasn't their daughter who fixed everything anymore. I was just Kristen, and that was enough. 3 days later, I walked into my parents' house with a letter. It wasn't for them, not directly. I'd spent the morning drafting an email to our extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, laying out the truth about the party, about how Mom, Dad, and Addison had left me to plan it while they flew to Paris without a word. The letter in my hand was a printed copy left on their dining table as a final statement. I didn't linger. I walked out, got in my car, and drove back to my apartment, ready to finish packing for Portland. Before leaving, I'd sent a group text to Addison's friends from school, a tight-knit crew she'd always bragged about. The message was simple. Addison's Sweet 16 was a lie. I planned it, spent my savings, and they left me waiting while they partied in Paris. I attached a photo of the empty restaurant tables, the band packing up the untouched decorations. I didn't need to say more. The truth spoke for itself. By the time I reached my apartment, my phone was lighting up with notifications, but I muted them. I wasn't here to watch the fallout. I was done with their drama. Addison's world unraveled first. Her friends, once loyal, started whispering. By the next day, her name was mud at school. Classmates who'd envied her Paris trip now saw her as the girl who ditched her sister for a selfie at the Eiffel Tower. A few of her closest friends stopped texting her, and her social media went quiet. No more posts about designer bags or trendy cafes. She'd built her reputation on Flash, but the truth stripped it away. I didn't hear this from her. Of course, cousins and neighbors started texting me, shocked, filling in the blanks. I didn't reply. Mom and Dad faced their own reckoning. The extended family, tight-knit and vocal, didn't take kindly to their stunt. Aunt Ellen, who'd already offered me her spare room in Portland, called Mom to ask why they'd lied. Cousins unfollowed them online, and family group chats buzzed with disapproval. Neighbors who'd once swapped small talk at block parties now gave them cold shoulders. Mom's book club canceled her invite to the next meeting, and Dad's golf buddies stopped calling. Their perfect image community pillars, doting parents, crumbled. They'd always cared about appearances, and now they had none. Their reaction came fast. My phone lit up with calls. Mom's number first, then Dad's, then Addison's, over and over. Voicemails piled up, each one angrier than the last. "Kristen, how could you humiliate us?" Mom's voice cracked, half pleading, half furious. Dad's was colder. "You've ruined our family's name." Addison's was pure venom. "You're a liar, and everyone will see it." I listened to the first few, then stopped. Their words didn't reach me anymore. I deleted the rest without playing them, my fingers steady on the screen. They tried texts, next long paragraphs blaming me, calling me ungrateful, demanding I fix the mess. Mom wrote about loyalty, Dad about respect. Addison about how I'd stolen her spotlight. I read the first line of each, then archived them. I didn't owe them a response, didn't owe them anything. I'd spent years cleaning up their messes, paying their bills, planning their lives. This was their mess, and they'd face it alone. Tara texted me that afternoon, a short message: "Heard what you did. Proud of you, girl." It wasn't like her push from before, just a nod from someone who got it. I smiled, typed back a quick "thanks," and put my phone down. Tara didn't need to say more. Her role in my story was done, and I was grateful for that moment of clarity she'd given me weeks ago. I kept packing, folding clothes, boxing up books. My suitcase sat by the door, my camera tucked safely inside. Portland was 2 weeks away, and I could already picture it. Rainy streets, coffee shops, the art school where I'd learned to capture the world through my lens. The chaos here, the calls, the texts. It was background noise now. I wasn't angry, wasn't hurt. I was free, and that freedom felt like air after years underwater. Mom tried one last time, showing up at my apartment that evening. She knocked softly, her voice muffled through the door. "Kristen, please, let's talk." I didn't open it. I stood on the other side, silent, my hand on the lock. She waited a few minutes, then left. I didn't feel guilt, didn't feel torn. I'd said what I needed to say, not with words, but with actions. The email, the text, the letter. They were my line in the sand. I sat on my couch, the apartment nearly empty now, just a few boxes left. The silence wasn't heavy, it was peaceful. I'd torn down the lies they'd built, not for revenge, but for truth. They'd face their consequences, and I'd face my future. Portland wasn't just a city, it was mine, a place where I'd write my own story, frame by frame, shot by shot. I didn't need their approval, their apologies, or their anger. I had myself, and that was more than enough. At the airport, my camera felt heavier than ever, not from its weight, but from what it carried: my future, my choice, my new beginning. I boarded the plane to Portland, my suitcase stowed above my heart steady. The hum of the engines drowned out the noise of the past weeks, and as the ground fell away, so did the weight of Columbia, Missouri. I didn't check my phone, didn't look for messages from Mom, Dad, or Addison. They were behind me, and I was done looking back. Aunt Ellen waited at Portland's baggage claim, her smile warm under the fluorescent lights. "Welcome home, Kristen," she said, pulling me into a hug. Her house, a cozy bungalow near the art school, became my temporary base. That first night, we sat on her porch sipping tea, talking about the city's quirks, its rainy charm, its hidden galleries. She didn't ask about my family, didn't push. She just handed me a spare key and said, "This is your space now." The photography course started the next week. I walked into the classroom, my Canon slung over my shoulder, and felt a spark I hadn't known in years. The instructor, a wiry man with a knack for light, showed us how to frame a cityscape. I listened, took notes, and felt alive. My classmates were a mix, some young, some older, all hungry to create. We bonded over coffee runs and late-night critiques, our photos pinned to the studio walls like promises. I spent my days exploring Portland, camera in hand. I shot the Burnside Bridge at dusk, its steel glowing against the sky. I captured a street musician, his guitar case open for coins, his smile bright. Every click of the shutter felt like a victory, a step toward the life I'd chosen. The city unfolded around me, murals on brick walls, food carts steaming in the rain, markets buzzing with color. I wasn't just taking pictures. I was building something new, frame by frame. My phone stayed quiet. I hadn't heard from Mom, Dad, or Addison since I'd left, and I didn't reach out. Their anger, their accusations, they belonged to a life I'd left behind. I checked my email once, saw nothing from them, and closed it. My focus was here in Portland, where I was free to be Kristen, not the sister who paid bills, not the daughter who fixed messes, just me. Looking back, I learned something vital. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's about living true to your values, not someone else's. I'd spent years putting my family first, thinking that was love. But love doesn't mean erasing yourself. It means setting boundaries, saying no, and building a life that's yours. Portland taught me that, and every photo I took was proof of it. To everyone listening to my story, thank you for sticking with me. I hope it resonates, maybe even sparks something in you. Have you ever had to set a boundary with family to choose yourself over their expectations? Share your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. Your stories matter just like mine did. They remind us we're not alone in finding our way.